YouTube? So in my comment section, you guys told me that Gandalf had another video where he has his full staff. And so I'm going to be reacting to that video. It's only 14 minutes long, so hopefully I can get through it pretty quickly. But by the way, my name is Natalie. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I react to these sovereign citizenship videos and other ones that are legally related. And yeah, let's get right into it. Sovereign citizen free man claims right to travel freely in court, loses. I can see his staff. Oh no.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Oh, he sits down in this one. Different judge.
Good morning. What's the call cases for Mr. Dennis, please?
Calling up pages 7 through 37 of the traffic calendar. William Dennis.
It's always traffic, man. I mean, not always, but a lot of the time it's traffic. Jeez Louise.
Good morning, Your Honor. Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Sarah McNamee for the state.
Good morning. My name is William Allen Richard Sequesi Megasa Dennis. I stand before you today under duress, and I object to entering your area of the courtroom. But I will do so out of respect for you as a person and not as my true authority, as I am a sovereign child of God. Before I enter
Aren't we all?
your area of the courtroom, I respectfully ask you respect my sovereign teachings and beliefs as well. As a sovereign child of God and a member citizen of the legal and internationally recognized Polynesian Kingdom of Atui, I do not fall under your jurisdiction.
Kingdom of Atui. Where's that? Is that what you just said? Kingdom of Atui? You guys will know.
That said, should I enter your area of the courtroom to continue this conversation regarding my motions to dismiss all charges or to remove my case to federal court?
Yes, you may.
Whether or not you physically go into the well of the courtroom has no bearing whatsoever on the issue of the court's jurisdiction over you.
Good morning, Mr. Dennis.
Good morning.
We're here on your motions to dismiss filed on pages 9 through 10, 12 to 15, 17, 19, 21, 23, 25 to 26, 28, 30 to 31, 33 to 35, and 37. That's on the calendar.
How many motions did he file?
Mr. Dennis?
Yes, all of them.
All of them, right?
Yep.
Okay, is that your understanding?
That is my understanding.
Mr. Dennis, I have read through your motions, and I just have on all the cases. I just wanted some clarification. Basically, it seems like the arguments on all your cases are the same.
Jurisdiction.
Yeah, it's the same. Basically, it's the same memo for all the cases.
Correct.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to have one argument for all the cases, rather than have you stand up like 20 times and say the same thing. And
This judge is ready.
I'm going to give the state an opportunity to respond to that. So I'll give you a chance. I'll give you about 5 minutes to argue. I've read it, so I mean, you've seen me. I've worked on a case with you before, so you know I've read your arguments and I've read your papers and pleadings. So I've read it.
I knew it. I could tell he was
I'll give you
familiar.
5 minutes to kind of wrap up or to emphasize whatever you want to emphasize on that.
He's not going to take 5
Give
minutes.
the state a chance to respond, and then and you can have the final argument. Okay?
Sure.
Go ahead, Mr. Dennis.
Well, my motion is basically that I am a sovereign child of God.
Okay.
Okay, and I have God-given rights that are being denied at this time.
Mm-hmm.
I have rights regarding separation of church and state. I also have rights.
Separation of church and state. The state is not trying to involve the church in the prosecution of your traffic citation. The only one trying to bring religion into this is him by saying that he's a sovereign child of God. And also, if you're a sovereign child of God, and I'm going to assume that you're operating under the Judeo-Christian system, meaning Christianity or Judaism, which comes from the Bible or the Torah. The Old Testament of the Bible, which is also found in the Torah, says to render unto Caesar what is his. So it is a directive of Christians to follow the law, because while we're here, we follow the law of the kings. And then when you're in heaven, you follow the law of God. So what happened to rendering unto Caesar what is his? Interesting.
Under the Constitution of the United States.
But you don't subscribe to the Constitution of the United States because you're sovereign and above the United States. So what bearing in your rubric of this quasi-legal system that you created for yourself, what bearing would the Constitution have over anything since you don't subscribe to this government?
Which protects my inalienable and unalienable rights.
Okay.
To not have my forward progress impeded, to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Your forward progress is not impeded, nor is your backward progress, as long as you travel on foot. But once you're in a motor vehicle, you have to submit to the motor vehicle and traffic laws of your state.
I also have reference to documents that were sent to the Honolulu Police Department and law enforcement officers and treaties and things in effect that protect my rights. The question is, the Polynesian Kingdom doesn't exist. We have a country code, we have treaties, we're recognized by the international body. My rights denied by the United Nations are the rights of...
What treaty did you enter into with the United States where they sat down with you and said that they were going to enter into a treaty with you? What treaty was that?
Indigenous people are being denied. So my human rights are being denied. All my rights are being denied.
Is that
by
an
this
indigenous
court.
person?
That is why I'm requesting to go to federal court and have a jury of my peers.
Okay.
I'd like to submit to this study process.
Thank you.
He doesn't look indigenous.
Is that your memo, or?
It's the Honolulu Police Department Policy Law Enforcement Operations.
Okay, would you
It
like?
also includes letters by the United Nations. Jason was...
I can't with this staff here, guys. You guys spoiled it for me, letting me know he was going to not just have his robe on, but his staff. So he had on his do-rag and his robe in the other video. And this one, he had his whole staff out. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Sorry to all the police chiefs and deputy police chiefs with asking them to cooperate with the Polynesian Kingdom of Tui during our transition into our nation.
Are you requesting the court to consider those letters too? Because I don't have them.
I just gave her a copy.
I know she got one, but I don't have them.
I was told that I could not submit any things with my motion.
That's not
I
true.
had a whole packet,
You
was
can
told by the
submit
court
exhibits.
before that I could not submit any exhibits or anything in defense of my motion. It was strictly a motion.
Well, if it's an item of law, I will consider that. Factual things are not considered generally as motions. So if the clerk is correct in terms of factual exhibits or evidence, that's not considered an motion to
That's
dismiss.
considered a trial.
Items of law, like for example, you were educating me on your Supreme Court decisions and so on and so forth, which I've read.
Right.
That, if you want to give me copies of that, I can get it through the library, but
Right.
if there's things like that, you can submit. But if it's just letters, yeah, it's usually not part of the record because motions to dismiss are based solely on the record and what's filed and on the law.
Right. Oh, that's actually a really, really good point. So, as you guys know, I had a civil case and also in my own criminal cases. When you're submitting a motion to dismiss on the basis of jurisdiction, you're going to rely on the state's filing, or in a civil case on the plaintiff's filings, and basically saying, based on what they have alleged, this court does not have jurisdiction over me. So factual averments usually are not admissible or considered at motions to dismiss for lack of jurisdiction. So that's a great point by the judge.
So if it's letters, I don't believe they will be relevant to the decision.
This is the drips from the United Nations on the rights of indigenous people, which all my rights are being denied.
You're indigenous to where?
Your own constitution as well, because you do defend the Constitution.
Yes,
correct?
I do.
And you do defend Hawaiian law as well?
I defend the Constitution.
Not Hawaiian law?
Let's just say I'm going to defend the United States and the state Constitution.
Okay.
We can proceed from there.
Then my rights stand as they would, this judge is.
Are these
Miss...
What are you giving this
McNamee,
lady?
Your Honor?
Oh, McNamee. Okay, let's see your name on the record. So Miss McNamee, you may proceed.
Thank you. The state would
Oh my God, I don't want this job to actually have to try to argue against this foolishness.
like to to make oral argument that this motion is without merit, given our precedent that we must follow. In State v. Fergustrom, the Intermediate Court of Appeals
She had to do research on
stated
this.
that the state of Hawaii has lawful jurisdiction over all persons operating motor vehicles on public roads or highways within the state of Hawaii.
So does every state.
And all of the offenses at issue here today are in regards to operating motor vehicles on the public roads of Hawaii. The state does respect the Native people's right to inherent sovereignty and self-governance. However, if Mr. Dennis is driving on the roads of Hawaii, then he is still subject to the
That's
jurisdiction
right.
of the court.
That's right.
And
Whether or not he is a Native person, which he
HRS
probably
section
isn't,
701-115
he still has to follow the rules of the
states
road.
that, oh, excuse me, that was the wrong section. It's not in this memo.
Come on, girl.
The jurisdiction of this court applies to anything that happens within this state. And the right to drive is not an inherent right, it's a privilege.
That's right.
And to use the roads. And the state would just like to argue that these motions are without merit. As recently as a few weeks ago, on July 30th, 2015, the Intermediate Court of Appeals issued a summary disposition stating that very thing. So it's Fergustrom is being upheld, and this court does have jurisdiction.
Thank you, Ms. McNamee. Mr. Dennis, you got the last.
You and I know that driving is.
So, you know what's really interesting is that between this video, which happened earlier in time in 2015, and the other video, which occurred in 2017, where he was sans staff, he seems to have deteriorated a bit because he's making his arguments a bit more saliently here. And in his other video, it didn't seem like he was really able to articulate anything other than the whole hyphen and period and tilde and all that type of stuff. Like, he wasn't really able to articulate any true arguments or ask any real questions. He was just repeating from his script over and over again while reading the punctuations. So I wonder if he's had some type of mental decline since then and since 2017, between 2017 and 2015.
Is a right for all citizens. You cannot impede my forward progress in any manner. You're also asking me to commit a crime.
And you shall not pass with his staff.
When I came to Hawaii to get legal credentials, I had to first look at.
So you came to Hawaii to get legal credentials, so you're not an indigenous person to Hawaii. So this whole indigenous argument doesn't even work, and it's not even legally sound even if you were, because even indigenous peoples must follow the rules of the road.
Because Hawaii is a state of the United States. In my opinion, it is not. I am an American citizen, and I know the Constitution that Hawaii was illegally annexed into this country.
It may have been.
As part of the United States.
It may have been. You still have to follow the rules of the road.
To take credentials for a state that I do not believe exists.
So what you doing there then if you don't believe it exists?
Doing so is committing a crime against my God, against myself, against the Hawaiian people. I will not change who I am as an individual. And asking me to change who I am is a serious egregious against me. And I do not respect that. So I refuse to commit a crime by taking credentials with Hawaii until I have irrefutable proof that Hawaii is a state of the United States.
Okay,
It
boo.
is also noted, if you notice, I have not actually committed any violations. I have not been stopped for anything except for the color of my plates. I could have my own name on there for that matter. I don't have to be part of anything. I have
He's driving without registration, it looks like.
a sovereign right as a child of God, protected by the United States Constitution.
You don't have a right to
protected by the
drive.
Declaration of Independence, protected by your own Pledge of Allegiance, because the United States is a republic. And a republic respects the inalienable and unalienable rights of the individual and the God-given rights of the individual.
What a market
So any
change
other
2
ruling
years has
short of
made.
that indicates the United States is not a republic.
These arguments
Therefore,
are
question again.
these arguments are completely unsound, legally unsound. And you see how he cites no case law, he cites no statute to support his arguments. They're completely without merit.
Who is the United States? Who is Hawaii? I have no proof. You've given me no proof.
It's
I've
a
given
what?
you everything. I've given you my life, my history of who I am, and how I support people. I unite people. I don't separate people. Every act against me is like an act of war.
What?
You're trying to make me something I am not, and I will not change no matter how you rule today.
An act of war?
Because I stand in my truth as a sovereign child of God.
Yes, you do, honey.
So if you want to disrespect God, go for it. Because
I thought he was against, or he was for the separation of church and state. So what does his sovereignty as a child of God have to do with these legal proceedings, have to do with this traffic citation?
if you judge me, you will be judged as well. But I stand by who I am and my decisions that I make as a sovereign individual.
Okay, honey.
That's all I have to say.
Oh,
Mr. Dennis?
he's done.
No, I'm not judging that. Never do that, but we are here on a motion to dismiss. I'm not here to determine whether you have committed a crime or not. That's not an issue with the
Right.
court. The issue is whether or not there is significant, there is a basis to dismiss the cases against you based upon your claims that the court has no jurisdiction based upon your claim that the charges violates your constitutional rights for freedom of travel, as you have cited, and also, I guess we've argued about being a sovereign child of God. Based upon the arguments of counsel and a review of the motion that was filed and the arguments made, the court finds that the court does have jurisdiction in this matter. The court does understanding that the state in cases of State versus Ferguson and in State versus Jim.
See how the prosecutor came with actual case law? Actual case law? He had none. You have to support your arguments with case law and statutes that are controlling on the court, that are from a higher court, and that court gets to tell this lower court what to do. You can't come with case law from the UN. You can't come with case law from the International Criminal Court. You can't come with case law from other states, right? That are like state-based cases. You have to come with case law from the appellate courts, the state Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, the Federal Circuit Court. It has to be something that's controlling on this court. All this other stuff he was just talking, made up foolishness.
Have specifically held that this court has jurisdiction on traffic matters regardless of the sovereignty issues or allegations made by defendants. The court does recognize those cases and recognizes the decisions based upon that. Based upon, also the court addresses on your claim that the citations violate your constitutional right to travel. The court finds that the constitutional right to travel under the cases that you have cited, specifically the last case that you have mentioned in your memo, Zola versus Williams, specifically state that the right to travel is the right to travel between states, or in some of the cases that you talked about, it was travel between the United States and another country. It does not talk about the right to
Travel within a state.
without
And drive.
any regulation in any vehicle.
And here's the thing. No one's stopping you from traveling. It's just that if you choose to travel by way of car, you have to follow the rules of the road. That's not stopping you from traveling. It's just meaning you have to do what everyone else has to do in order to travel by car. But if you want to put that car down, park it up somewhere and travel by foot or roll around on the ground until you get where you want to go, or get in a go-kart or whatever, get in do a Fred Flintstone, do whatever you want. But if you're gonna be in a motor vehicle, which is a weapon, basically, you have to follow the rules of the road, and there's no getting around that.
So I don't find that those arguments are convincing in terms of what the United States Supreme Court has said. In regards to your request for removal to the federal district court, I do not find that there is a sufficient basis for removal of those matters to the federal district court. Mr. Dennis, if you really want to follow through on that, you should be filing an action in the federal district court
That's right.
and ask for the court to stay these proceedings. But the court on its own cannot send over something to the federal district court, say, you take it. Unless there's a clear federal jurisdiction issue, this court cannot just package up these cases.
Yeah, the federal prosecutor could choose to charge him, and that would bring his case over. But there's no jurisdiction with the federal for local traffic offenses. There's no jurisdiction in federal court for that.
Federal district court. Based upon that, the court will deny all your motions to dismiss. State to prepare the order, please.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis.
Of course you object.
Do we have any other cases available?
Oh, that staff. It just gets me. It's so funny. Oh, Mr. Dennis. What an interesting individual he is. So Mr. Dennis and his staff were unsuccessful this time, and they were unsuccessful in 2017 as well. And I hope he's doing well. I hope he's out there somewhere not driving if he doesn't want to have a license. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.